Hi, welcome to the Rittners Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. The time of year, it's around July 4th. And of course, everybody's celebrating. It's an amazing holiday, it's a wonderful holiday, and we can show you some really neat things that can be done for this holiday using floral art. Our staff has been very busy, working very hard to come up with some ideas. Let's take a look at a few of them, and I think you're going to really enjoy this video. Our first example here of some floral art for the July 4th holiday is this little pair of containers. And there are a couple of things that we can derive from this that I think are really interesting from a teaching point of view. And number one, when you're coming up with holiday floral art and you're working in symbolism of color, as we are when we're talking red, white, and blue as far as July 4th is concerned, it doesn't all have to be with the flowers. You can incorporate color into other elements of your designs. Now, if you look at this very carefully, you have two containers here. Each one of these is independent. In other words, each one could stand on its own, or they could work very nicely together as a modular kind of piece, and that's how we're presenting it. But the containers happen to be a very pretty light blue. The red is achieved through our ribbon. And the white, well, we're using this amazing material called eremeris. Eremeris is just a wonderful material. It's available at this time of the year. Generally, when we first look at eremeris, it looks more like green and maybe a little yellow. But as it opens up, we see it as being pretty white. So we're getting our white through the use of eremeris. So notice that in this simple design that you have here, our red, white, and blue is achieved through the container, through the ribbon, and through the botanical. You can get it from all of them. And I think that that's an important point. We can use all elements if we want to achieve the color symbolism in this holiday. Notice also, it's a very simple design. It's something that you could achieve very nicely. And although we're using eremeris, you, my viewer, in your designing, could pick any white flower or a couple of flowers to drop into a blue container or a red container and play with the mixture and the combination of red, white, and blue between your botanical, a little bit of ribbon, and a container. Isn't that neat? Quick, easy, simple, and yet it conveys the concept of July 4th in a very neat way. Okay, my viewer, we've got a lot of other interesting things we want to share with you. Let's show you a few other ideas that I think you're going to find kind of interesting. Here is a design that we thought you would enjoy. And again, it gets across the idea of July 4th in a very effective way. It's a cube. The cube happens to be a red cube. These cubes of glass have become very popular at the present time. Amazingly popular. And if we can enjoy cubes of glass that happen to be clear, certainly we can get across the symbolism through a red cube in this particular case. The floral materials, very simply, some blue hydrangea on one side, some white hydrangea on the other. A hydrangea has become a very popular flower. We're seeing a lot of it in terms of party, function use, and so forth. And the public really love it. It's easy to work with. You take a couple of big hydrangea flowers, drop them in, and you've got yourself a design, quick, easy, and simple. A few of our red carnations, again, to tie in with the red of our container. So we've got the red, the white, and the blue very nicely. And then we've taken some of this wild stuff that gives a really cool effect with the stars of red, white, and blue. It shines, it shimmers, it adds a little wild touch to our design. A very simple arrangement, very quick and easy to achieve, and yet again it achieves the red, white, and blue concept so nicely for us. Let's move on and show you another design, my viewer, that I think you're going to find interesting. Again with this July 4th motif. And on this one, also a water-based design, And the first thing you notice on this, of course, is the red, white, and blue ribbon. Because we can achieve July 4th effects through not only regular ribbon that might be red or blue or white, but they do have some amazing ribbons out there that are available that give the whole motif of the flag, And again, we're making use of some of these remarkable hydrangea that are so prevalent at this time of the year that the public love, that you can find. And by mixing a blue hydrangea here, a white hydrangea here, and some of our carnations, our red carnations here, adding a bow to it, and then dropping it into a container, glassware. We have a very, very pretty bouquet for July 4th. Incidentally, one of the things I should mention on this is a one-sided piece, really. There's a front and a back side to it, but by turning it around, I think you can get an idea of what we're doing here. Essentially, we just tied this together. In other words, we took our hydrangea, a few carnations, added the bow, tied it together, and dropped it into a fairly narrow necked container of glassware. It gives just an amazing effect, but it's essentially a bouquet that has been converted for vase arrangement use. I think it does it in a spectacular manner. It's very, very showy. I feel very, very good about putting this one on our kitchen counter, perhaps, maybe on a mantle in an entry area. It's big, it's showy, and yet these kinds of things are very, very quick and easy to do, and that's the important thing we want to stress here on some of these units. Quick, easy, fun. Let's see what else we can do for July 4th in terms of our florals. And we have some very, very neat concepts and ideas here for you. Just shifting gears, I'll move this one. And let's come up with another design, my viewer. Bear with me while I move a few things around. You're going to love this one. This one is very, very cool. Recently, the concept of designing in water has evolved to the point that we're not only talking water-based designing, but we're also talking in terms of putting things under the water level. And in this particular design, my viewer, we've done just that. We have an 8-inch bubble, These almost look like bowling balls if you want to define them in a particular way. Very, very cool. We've got some of our curly willow inside, some of our blue hydrangea in the inside held down through our curly willow, and then a melange on the top. We have some of our blue hydrangea worked here, up here, and then red and also white, red and white as far as our carnations are concerned, placed through the top of the design and in through the water. It gives an amazing effect. And also, let's notice that we also have some of the ting-ting with the red motif worked here to give it a little bit of a wilder effect as well. It's a very, very pretty design. Notice also in this particular design, we're not only playing with the concept of putting some of our materials under the water level and integrating it with what goes on top, but this is a good example of how you can take and mix more costly materials with less costly materials to come up with a cool effect. Just because we're playing with the July 4th motif doesn't mean we have to go always with totally high-end stuff. Carnations are a very, very reasonable flower. They come in a wide variety of different colors, and certainly using the reds and the whites on our carnations and mixing it with the blue hydrangea gives an amazing mix that really is visually very, very arresting and does a great job in terms of what we're trying to achieve. A very pretty design, an interesting design, so keep in mind in doing your July 4th designs, not only to work on the top level of the design, but consider putting things under the water level, and also consider some of your dried materials, such as our red sparkly ting-ting, as a possibility to even jazz it up a bit more. A very, very pretty arrangement. Now, what else do we have to show you? Well, we have another interesting design. This one is going to be a foam-based design, and we thought that you might find this interesting because it's incorporating some very cool ideas into it. This design is foam-based, and as you can see here, we've got a very classical container, but it was chosen because, again, it works very well with the colors of this particular holiday. It's white. And then notice what we have here. We've got basically the Biedermeier concept built into this design. Biedermeier meaning concentric circles, but it's been played with a little bit. It isn't a total circle. In other words, we don't have a total circle of our hydrangea here, which we could have done. We loosened it up a little bit, and we have a few hydrangea here, here, and then working around towards the back, because this is meant to be viewed all the way around. To loosen it up and make it feel very natural, we have some of our willow material here. We've got some of our moss integrated into it. So it doesn't feel like a total block kind of thing when it comes to the color and the materials. It feels more natural because we've got a little here, here, some willow worked in, some moss. It opens it up a little bit. And then we've got a massive piece of our hydrangea here. And then again, we're playing with the Biedermeier concept of having our red carnations here, here, here. But they're not all in a block. In other words, we don't have them a total row of it. So it loosens up the concept of Biedermeier in a very, very interesting way. Now, we could have just gone this route of having some of our blue hydrangea, our white hydrangea, a few red carnations worked around, and then just stopped with this part of the design. But notice that we're playing with it a little bit more. And in fact, there's a style of design called Phoenix style where we've got things shooting out of a more classical mound. And we are playing with that concept here a little bit, because you notice that in this design, when you back away and look at it, you also have some of our amazing blue delphinium shooting out of the top. And then again, our Ting Ting in red. It's got some of the glitter on it, so it really shines and glistens. It really looks so nice. It gives a great effect. We normally associate the Biedermeier concept and the Phoenix concept with both vase arrangements and with bridal bouquets. I think that the application of Biedermeier in a vase arrangement and then adding that Phoenix effect to it really is very effective and looks really, really cool. And we thought, my viewer, that you would really enjoy it. Well, moving along, we have a few other great ideas here for you. I want to show you a pair of small designs. These small designs are really, really cool, and I know that any of you out there watching this could do these because they're quick, easy, and fun. Of course, you'll notice that the key factor on them is they've got these wild-looking pots. Look at the pots. Aren't they cool? We've got a pot on the right side that happens to be blue with white polka dots. We've got the pot on the left side that's red. It has a little a collar on it of white and blue. Both of these containers, of course, are amazingly appropriate for the holiday. They work very, very well. And we've got contrast in these two designs. They're all incorporating the concept of red, white, and blue. The one on the left, again, we're making use of the dark blue hydrangea that's available very, very nicely at this time of the year. We are not going to make it a totally symmetrical design. We're deliberately playing with balance here a little bit. We've got it angling down a little bit more here. And we did that on purpose. We could have cut it off and made it exact. We didn't. We thought it would be more interesting to be a little bit more interesting visually by angling it here. And then putting some of our roses on this side helps again to achieve an interesting effect that way. On the one on the right, notice we've got a light blue hydrangea. It is a light blue. It's sold as that. It's kind of looks more like white with a little bluish tint. Then some of our delphinium worked here, here, shooting off there, and a rose in the middle. So these two could be shown individually. They could be shown together as a grouping. You notice at Rittners we do like to stress different groupings of things because we think that sometimes putting designs together in groupings works very, very well. So it could be used in either capacity. And there are some other things we can do with this, however, and let me show you because I think you're going to find this kind of funky. Because we could take these two, use them individually or use them together, or we could take these two and integrate them with something even more. Now let me show you. You're going to love this. Here is a column. And let me put this down here, my viewer, so you can see. The concept of columns. Very, very popular these days when it comes to parties, weddings, functions, things like that. A glass column. And we have in our glass column some of those amazing gel beads in a pink color down here at the bottom. It gives a totally different effect, and it's great to hold our mechanics. Worked into this design, we happen to have some of our pink ginger here, 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 some of our exotic foliage, and then shooting out of the top, because this design is actually quite tall, we happen to have some of our curly willow coming up dramatically. This would work very, very well in an entry area. It would work well in a bay window. But notice that we're presenting it as a collection. In other words, we've got our column using predominantly pink, and then we're mixing our pink column along with our blue, reds, whites worked in on these. So you get the concept of red, white, and blue in a very, very funky way, non-traditional to be sure, by mixing a column with a few traditional pieces on either side. Gets across the concept very, very nicely in terms of this wonderful holiday. Well, I could stop at this point, but wait, there's more. We've got one more concept we would like to share with you before closing. I think you're going to find it really, really neat because, again, it shows the different ways we can integrate floral art as far as this wonderful holiday is concerned. I like novelties, and although we're showing these pots as just ideas in and of themselves, these pots can also be used in a slightly different way. You see, these pots were originally taken out of planters. These are these little kind of novelty planter things that you sometimes get that you can use to put a little display of a few plants or a single plant in your yard. It gives a really neat effect. And we found planters that gave across the idea, the concept of July 4th patriotic motif very, very nicely. Instead of using our planter to display just some plants, we thought it would be kind of fun to use them along with our flowers. So notice that by pulling off the cylinder that we had, the column, and now taking these two pieces and working this one where the planter actually works, the metallic thing works with the pot here, and she's holding her little bouquet of flowers, and having a second one, we have a different kind of grouping. The grouping works very, very nicely. Of course, we could go in another direction on this, and the other direction is that we could take a different planter, like this one, that of course waves the flag and gives across the idea of our patriotic holiday, and we could place it like this. So now we have a slightly different effect. So notice that in both cases we're playing with the planter, the novelty gimmick, and getting flowers in a very, very neat way. Of course, we can also do things like this, and it depends on what you want to do and where you're placing these. I mean, these can make a wonderful setting in a window that you might have in your home, in an entry area of your home. Works so nicely. Or we could just simply take this and have our little friends who are definitely dressed for the occasion of July 4th holding these, and we can have a little display like this. Notice how by taking component parts, small sections, you can combine them to come up with so many different kinds of approaches that will give the idea of this holiday. Well, my viewer, what do you think? We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. You've seen in this particular video how you can take glassware, ribbon, and flowers, botanicals, and come up with very simple designs that get across the concept of July 4th. We got involved with more complex designs in water, ranging from a bouquet that was placed into a container to the very, very popular cube that's used at the present time. We played a little bit with underwater technique applied to this particular holiday. You noticed how Biedermeier and Phoenix could be applied as far as July 4th is concerned. And yes, we can start playing with modular approaches involving columns, small pieces, and come up with novelty designs for this wonderful holiday. It's been a real pleasure coming and seeing you today at our school. We thank you for coming in and viewing this. On behalf of all of our staff here at Rittners Floral School, we welcomed you to our school. We thank you for coming in. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. Please come back and view more in our video series, and have a wonderful July 4th holiday. Thank you.